You know, every time you book an international flight, you're plugging into this massive, hidden network of rules. A whole set of invisible treaties that, honestly, make the entire world of travel possible. So today, we're going to pull back the curtain on the secret language of aviation, the rules that govern every single plane in the sky.
I mean, we've all been there, right? You book a flight with an airline you know, you show up at the airport, and the plane waiting for you is from a totally different airline you've maybe never even heard of. Well, that little mystery is exactly what we're going to want to unravel. And believe it or not, the answer goes back almost 80 years.
So for this, we have to go back in time, right to the end of World War II. Back then, international air travel was pretty much the Wild West. There were no standard rules. Flying from one country to another was just a ridiculously complicated mess. It was clear something had to change to bring some order to all that chaos. So in 1944, a bunch of world leaders got together in Chicago, and their goal was huge: create one single set of rules, some fundamental rights that would let airlines fly between countries and connect the globe safely and fairly. This meeting, the Chicago Convention, basically laid the foundation for the entire system we take for granted today.
So what was this brilliant solution they cooked up? Well, it wasn't some 1,000-page law book. It was a much more elegant series of privileges, and they called them the freedoms of the air. And this one concept, it is the absolute bedrock of every single international flight.
At their core, what are the freedoms of the air? They're basically permissions. They're just a set of rights that one country gives to another, letting its airlines fly over their land or even land there. Without these agreements, no international flight could legally happen. It is that fundamental.
And just how many of these freedoms are there? In total, they defines 9. 9 distinct privileges, and each one gives an airline a different level of access to another country's skies.
Okay, I know, 9 freedoms sounds like a lot to keep in your head, but don't worry, they break down into a few simple, logical groups that actually make a ton of sense. Let's dig into how it works.
So instead of trying to memorize all 9 rules, it's way easier to think about them in 3 tiers. First, you've got transit rights. This is basically just permission to pass through, fly over a country or maybe land for gas, but not pick anyone up. Then you have basic service. This is your classic international flight, say from London to Tokyo. And finally, you get the beyond rights. These are the real puzzle pieces for building a massive global airline network, letting airlines fly really complex routes.
But, and this is a really crucial point, countries don't just hand out all 9 freedoms to everybody. It's not a free-for-all. While the first 5 are pretty common, those more complex beyond rights are often really restricted. And why? Well, it comes down to simple economics. Countries want to protect their own airlines. They want to shield them from too much foreign competition. If a government can limit who flies a popular route, it gives its own national airline a huge leg up. And that protectionism, it can directly affect how many flight options you have. And yeah, what you end up paying for your ticket.
All right, so let's pull this all back to you right now with that plane ticket sitting in your email. How in the world do these 80-year-old rules actually change anything about your flight today?
Well, you can think of those original freedoms from 1944 as the foundation of a building. They were essential. They created the basic idea of cooperation, this radical notion that countries should give each other access to their skies.
But if the freedoms were the foundation, then modern open skies agreements, well, they're the skyscraper built right on top. These deals are what really created the incredibly dense, competitive, and interconnected world of flying that we all know today.
So an open skies agreement is basically a pact where 2 countries just agree to let the free market decide who flies where, not the government. The whole point is to knock down those protectionist walls, crank up competition, and stop any one airline from completely owning a route. And for you, the traveler, what does more competition almost always lead to? More choices and, yeah, lower prices. And this right here brings us full circle to that question from the very beginning. Open skies is the big picture government policy that creates the opportunity for more flights. Code sharing is the business strategy airlines use to take advantage of that opportunity. It's how one airline can sell you a seat on their partner's plane, letting them build this huge, seamless network that goes to places they don't even fly to themselves. And that's why your ticket and your plane don't always have the same name on them. So the next time you're booking a trip, just remember this. That simple confirmation email in your inbox, it's not just a seat on a plane. It represents decades and decades of really complex international diplomacy, all of it humming along behind the scenes just to connect our world.
I mean, it's pretty amazing that this system from 1944 is held up so well, right? From propeller planes to jumbo jets to budget airlines. But now,
as we're heading into an age of commercial drones, supersonic travel making a comeback, and even space tourism. You gotta wonder, what's the 10th freedom of the air gonna be? And who's gonna get to decide that? Definitely something to chew on during your next flight.